Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Hannibal Lecter is one of the most iconic villains in fiction, intelligent, refined, and utterly ruthless. In The Silence of the Lambs, the hunt for Buffalo Bill is merely a distraction from the predator lurking behind bars. At first glance, Lecter is a man of sophistication, a brilliant psychiatrist, an art lover, and a gourmet. But beneath the cultured facade lies something far more terrifying. A mind that understands humanity so well, he can dismantle it with words alone. Oh, and he eats people. The FBI believes they have him contained. But Lecter is never truly imprisoned. With each conversation, he peels away Clarice Starling's defenses, cutting deep with nothing but his voice. He gives just enough to catch Buffalo Bill, but in return, he gets something far more valuable: her deepest secrets, her darkest trauma, the fragile pieces of her soul laid bare for his enjoyment. When the moment arrives, Hannibal escapes by borrowing a guard's face. Then he vanishes, slipping through the cracks with chilling precision. The world tried to cage him, but he simply declined. Hannibal Lecter wins. He is the perfect predator. The world is still his hunting ground, and he's still hungry. Noah Cross. Noah Cross, the main antagonist of the movie Chinatown, is a powerful tycoon with a bottomless thirst for control. Cross manipulates the people of Los Angeles as effortlessly as he manipulates its water supply. His land grab scheme is as calculated as it is ruthless. Engineer a drought, force farmers to sell, and then reroute the water to make his stolen land priceless. The city suffers, but Cross thrives. When his former partner, Hollis Mulray, gets too close to exposing him, Cross removes him. Private investigator Jake Gittes is on to Cross. However, he digs too deep, uncovering not just the corruption, but Cross's darkest crime. Cross's own daughter, Evelyn, bore his child, Catherine. When Evelyn tries to escape with her, Cross doesn't hesitate. He lets the police do his dirty work, watching as they gun down his own daughter in the street. And then, with cold certainty, he takes Catherine into his custody. There are no consequences, no justice. The police side with him, the system protects him, and Gittes is left powerless, forced to walk away. Cross gets what he wanted: control, wealth, and the continued abuse of his own blood. Tyler Durden, the first rule of Fight Club is, we don't talk about Fight Club, but I'm going to do it anyway. Tyler Durden is a force of destruction, rebellion, and freedom wrapped in a single entity. At the start, the narrator is trapped in a life of corporate monotony, numbing himself with consumerism and self-help groups. Then, Tyler appears, brash, fearless, and destructive. He tears down the narrator's world, dragging him into a life of raw violence, chaos, and anti-capitalism. Fight Club grows into Project Mayhem, and soon it's all out of control. The big twist in the movie is the fact that Tyler isn't real. He's a manifestation of the narrator's deepest desires, his rejection of a meaningless, consumer-driven existence. Ever since he appeared, Tyler has always been in control. The narrator isn't losing himself to Tyler. He is Tyler. When the truth is revealed, he tries to stop him, but it's too late. The plan is already in motion. The narrator fights back, trying to reclaim his own mind. He shoots himself, symbolically killing his alter ego. But does Tyler really lose? The bombs go off, the financial system collapses, and the narrator, no longer trapped in his hollow life, stands reborn. Tyler's mission wasn't about survival, it was about transformation. Job well done, Judge Wargrave. In the Agatha Christie novel, And Then There Were None, the retired Judge Wargrave lures 9 strangers to an isolated island, each guilty of a crime they were never punished for. With meticulous planning, Wargrave sets out to be their executioner, following the eerie framework of a nursery rhyme. One by one, the guests die, each murder staged to match the poem. Wargrave fakes his own death with the help of Dr. Armstrong, allowing him to operate in the shadows as panic and paranoia consume the remaining survivors. As the bodies pile up, his plan unfolds flawlessly. By the end, only Vera Claythorne remains. Broken by guilt and psychological manipulation, she ends her suffering, completing the final line of the rhyme. With his masterpiece complete, Wargrave unalives himself in a way that mirrors his staged death, ensuring that investigators find only 10 bodies and an unsolvable mystery. However, Judge Wargrave cannot bear the idea that his perfect crime will go unappreciated. So before shooting himself, Wargrave writes a full confession, seals it in a bottle, and tosses it into the sea for someone to find. His crime is only discovered because he chooses to reveal it. The confession is his final triumph, a way of saying, I won. Tom and Daisy Buchanan. At its core, F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby is a tragedy, not just for Jay Gatsby, but for the very idea of the American dream itself, always just out of reach. Gatsby, the self-made man, believes that wealth can buy back the past, that ambition alone can grant him entry into the elite world of old money and win him his lost love. But no matter how lavish his parties or grand his mansion, he will always be an outsider chasing a dream. Tom Buchanan is often seen as the villain, and rightfully so. He is cruel, entitled, and hypocritical. A man who sneers at Gatsby's fortune while enjoying the privileges of inherited wealth. But Tom doesn't need to defeat Gatsby. The system is already rigged in his favor. He simply exposes Gatsby's background and lets the inevitable unfold. Yet, Daisy is the villain as well. Gatsby dedicates his entire life to her, a dream as elusive as the green light across the bay. She loves him when it's convenient, but in the end, she chooses comfort over love, letting Gatsby take the blame for her crime, ultimately dooming him. Gatsby dies for a crime he didn't commit, and Tom and Daisy, unfazed, quietly leave town, retreating into their privilege and leaving chaos in their wake. In the end, Gatsby was never just fighting Tom. He was fighting a world where men like Tom always comes out on top. And that's a battle Gatsby never stood a chance of winning. Alex DeLarge. A Clockwork Orange is a story about violence, free will, and control. Stanley Kubrick's 1971 film adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel paints a bleak picture of human nature, one where true rehabilitation is impossible, and brutality reigns supreme. Alex DeLarge, the film's sadistic protagonist, thrives on chaos and destruction. Alongside his droogs, he terrorizes the streets, indulging in ultra-violence without remorse. When he is finally caught and subjected to the Ludovico technique, the state strips him of his ability to choose violence, reducing him to a passive, helpless shell. But rather than curing Alex, the process merely robs him of free will, making him incapable of defending himself. When public backlash forces the government to undo his conditioning, Alex is cured, not reformed, but restored to his old self. He wins, not by changing, but by regaining his ability to inflict harm. Interestingly, this ending is not true to the source material. The original novel ends differently. In its final chapter, omitted from Kubrick's film, Alex grows tired of violence. He realizes that his past life was childish and meaningless, longing instead for something real, a family, a future, something beyond destruction. In the film, Alex wins by embracing his old ways. In the book, he wins by leaving them behind, Peter and Paul. In Funny Games, an ordinary family's vacation turns into a nightmare when two young men, polite yet sadistic, invades their home. Peter and Paul, sometimes calling each other Tom and Jerry, toy with their victims, forcing them to participate in a series of cruel, meaningless games. There is no reason, no deeper motive. They inflict suffering simply because they can. As the night unfolds, the family is humiliated, tortured, and ultimately murdered, with Peter and Paul remaining eerily calm throughout. When the mother briefly gains the upper hand, the film breaks reality. Paul literally rewinds time using a remote control, undoing her actions and stripping away any hope of escape. By the end, Peter and Paul move on to the next house, repeating their twisted game without consequence. For Peter and Paul, it's entertainment. And as long as there are new victims to play with, the game will never end. Oliver Lang. In the movie Arlington Road, Michael Faraday is a college professor specializing in domestic terrorism, and he is severely haunted by his wife's death in an FBI standoff. Michael grows suspicious of his new neighbor, Oliver Lang. Oliver seems friendly, but small inconsistencies and unsettling comments hint at something darker. As Michael digs deeper, he uncovers Oliver's past as a failed teenage bomber and realizes he is planning something big, but Oliver is always one step ahead. He carefully gaslights Michael, manipulates evidence, and ensures no one believes his growing paranoia. By the time Michael unravels the truth, the trap is already set. Oliver and his group don't just carry out the attack, they manipulate Michael into unknowingly delivering the bomb himself. The explosion devastates the FBI headquarters, and the media immediately blames Michael, painting him as a bitter, lone wolf terrorist with a grudge against the government. With Michael dead, there's no one left to tell the truth. His son is orphaned, believing his father was a monster. And Oliver? He simply disappears into another suburb, ready to start the cycle again. That was part 4. Let me know in the comments which ending you think is the darkest and why. Thanks for watching. Cheers.